You're live.
Okay, I'll bring the Community Development Committee meeting to order. And we have Jeremy and Art is here and Brian, of course, to take our minutes. And Ron Garbett is not able to be with us. And we also have a guest. What's your name?
Larry Branstetter.
Larry, Art told me, but I didn't remember. Larry Branstetter. He's going to talk to us about park plans. But I think before we do that, we have two quick things we need to do. One is we need to approve the minutes from June 8th. There was a correction in it, and it's been corrected, provided an update on park benches. There were 9 benches ordered this round, 18 total benches through this program. It had said 18 benches ordered this round. So I will entertain a motion to approve.
Yeah, I move to approve the
Okay,
minutes as
I
written.
guess I second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, all opposed? All righty. And the other thing we have is we were talking about doing a survey. So Jeremy has a little information for that.
So just a quick update, if you were tuning in the last meeting, was trying to get the pulse of the businesses in town and basically how we can do things better to better serve them out of this committee and what they need and what they feel that they don't need, that kind of thing. And I began working to put together, I had a really good website through that website with the University of Wisconsin-Madison. They have a really good program set up for that. And I was going down the road and then it occurred to me we had talked about perhaps Jason. This is something he could help with.
Yes.
When I emailed Jason, as Jason so often has to do with me, he said, "Ho, hold on there, Jeremy. This is actually my job. You can just." So Jason and I are in discussion. He says he has some really great material that's along these lines. Specifically, I'm going to say it out loud so people know what to look for. He has a business retention and expansion survey that he has used in other municipalities that he is very much endorsing that we would look at. And so we're going to be continuing that conversation and perhaps in the next, if it's okay, timing wise, bring that the actual survey itself to the next CDC meeting. Is that an okay time frame?
Sounds great.
Okay, great. So high five. Thank you, Jason, for being so good at your job and being so professional and helping me out and not throttling me when I step on your toes. And on that note, so watch for that next meeting and I'm done.
That was quick.
I do my best, especially
Thank
for
you.
me, right? Yeah.
So Mr. Branstetter, we want to give you the rest of the meeting
All
and
right. Thank
we'll talk.
you. I didn't bring a whole lot because I wanted to listen to what you guys were thinking about. And anyway, Art and I were talking a few weeks ago. He said you got a park site here that you'd like to develop. And we've done work for the village over the years, and we happen to have a division of the firm that specializes in parks. And so they've got some deadlines this week, so I like driving to Georgetown. So I got the job. And,
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Oh. American Institute of Architects.
my name's on the other side. We spent a whole bunch of money with a PR firm that, not that I'm opposed to it, that they all came from Procter & Gamble. And so putting the name of your company on the back of the card now
That's a good idea.
is the hip thing to do. And then we came up with a new logo and all this good stuff. It's only been our third graphics program in 42 years.
Oh, wow.
So that speaks to anything. And should we start?
No need.
What I'd like to do tonight, it's my understanding that you want to develop the park site that you've got. Maybe take a look at some village-wide planning as to what direction you need to go over the next 7 years. And we do a lot of work like that in small communities, in big cities. And we developed a citizen engagement process. We also have some surveys that we use. And you're looking at what needs do you have? And that's the first thing we typically do. I did prepare an outline scope of services. But I wanted to hear from you guys first. And then perhaps if it's okay, I'll formulate some recommendations and then come back for another meeting, but and bring some materials that focus in on Georgetown and not on, scattered everything else. So I think at this point, we talked about doing a village park master plan, and at the same time, perhaps developing, one of the ideas might be to put a pool here. And we've done about 140 municipal pools around the country. And,
That's a popular idea.
well, we kind of got, it's kind of a funny story as to how we got in it. But first thing I'm going to give you is, here's an 8.5 by 11 of this site. So if you want to mark on it.
Oh, okay, thank you.
I'll offer press. There is too, or you just do that. Like,
Oh, okay.
we,
I'll tell you, first of all, this land was donated to us, and it's about 40 acres, give or take. And the first 20 acres were developed back in the 80s,
yeah.
early 80s. No planning done. And, we're fitting things in here and there, and we've added a few things to it the last few years. But we're about out of the space in it. So, I want to be sure that the next 20 acres are planned and that we get what people really want. And there's some problems with it. It's swampy. It's,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, Art explained that to me, where you got the green line, you got the green dot, that's your existing park.
Yes,
Then you go to the west, you've got comparable acreage.
right.
And we've got, this is the main park, we've got a basketball where there's a senior citizens exercise playground or whatever they call it right here. We've got a basketball court right here, and then a volleyball court here. The soccer teams use this area for soccer, but we just put a splash pad right here, a water feature for the kids here. We have a restroom building here.
Skate
This
park.
is a playground. This is wooded, and then you only see two, but there's actually 3 ball diamonds back here, right here, and there's one here that you can't see under the trees very well. And then there's a walking path that zigzags around through this.
And a dog park.
And oh yeah, the dog park is back here too. At the end of this parking lot, right in here is the dog park.
There's a skate park in the front.
And the
Yeah.
skate park is right here. You can see it in the parking lot, and then the back entrance to the park. Of course, the front entrance to the park, the back entrance to the park, which we're working on getting upgraded, because you feel like you're driving into the middle of West Virginia when you go in that parking lot there. But so that's where we are.
So we crammed a lot in it, but,
Well, piecemeal.
and you can see we've got a grove of trees there that I guess some of them could be taken down. I hate to take all the trees down. We have people from another village pretty close who have a walking track. They come here and they walk because we have some shade they can walk through. They have no trees in their park.
Well,
So,
we have, one of the first parks I ever worked on, they had about a 20-acre tract on that site that was pretty well just grown over, but it had trees on it. So we had them go in and clean out underneath and then go up and take out the first 10 feet of branches. And it was a canopy. Of course, you could walk under it, you could
Right.
do a bunch of other things. And we're still doing work for that community. And I went up and looked at that same grove of trees, and it looks just the same, except the trees have now gotten larger. So it's very nice, and you just have to keep it cleaned out. And I think when you look at a site, every site is unique for parks. And every site is unique, not only for its physical capabilities and size and facility, but also where it is in the community, who has access to it, who's going to use it, what kind of programs does the community want to offer? That's the real key. And if you have any programs that obviously you're not large enough perhaps to have a park and recreation department
Right.
like a lot of cities do, but you could, you could team with volunteers, you could team with other local groups. A lot of people lean toward the school board right away, but those usually don't work.
Right.
Yeah. We got a project right now in Lima, Ohio. It's about a $15 million indoor pool and stuff. And the school board and the city are joint venturing on this thing. And we got it all designed, got the funding in place. And don't you know, we're getting ready to bid. And the school board starting to balk at the thing. And they picked a site adjacent to the high school because that's what the school board wanted. And this whole thing could very well just fall apart.
Right.
And I've seen that over and over again. You start off with good intentions. Well, what can we do for you? I'll give you a Reader's Digest version. One is we would recommend that you come in and do some sort of master planning effort. And we've never done one for a village this size. Most of the time it's the bigger cities. But so what I did was I put my thinking cap on. I said, okay, how can we take the key elements that we've done for cities and then do it for a community like Georgetown? Because you're not going to spend $100,000 on a master plan.
Right.
Or more. So I get that. What can we do for a fraction of that? And we kind of specialize in clients with no money. I don't know if you know. Did I ever tell you that? We've been in business 43 years, and I love working with cities and counties and villages. So yes, I love working with them. But most of the time, you go into a situation where there's a need and no money, and that's fine. We've put together a potpourri of funding packages. Of late, we've seen more and more communities funding their own park improvements. And this has been going on the last 20 years. Ironically enough, we're getting much better projects because they're more responsive to the people, and the park is in the programs, and then the people come along and they tell us what they want. And that's an amazing game changer.
Mm-hmm.
So we would recommend that we have a couple of neighborhood meetings. And we'll normally go out to, in a larger city, we might go around to half a dozen different neighborhoods. Maybe more than that. In Cincinnati, we had 17 different neighborhood meetings representing 56 neighborhoods. And it was real simple. We had 17 of them in a period of about, the first round was in about 6 weeks, and we did meetings a lot in the evenings. And get people there and say, okay, what do you like about your existing parks? What don't you like? And what would you like to see changed? And the important part of that is people don't want a bunch of planners wearing jackets coming in and telling them what they need. And so, and you'd be surprised how many facilities that people latch on to that may not be all that great, but they don't want to give it up. And so so you've got to deal with, okay, what do you like? What don't you like? What do you want to see changed? What do you want to see improved? Now, then we might have some meetings with what we would call the stakeholders. Do you have teams or your soccer teams organized? Do you have baseball that's organized? Anything that you've got that's an organized sport, we would probably ask you to get somebody represented, ask them to come in for a 1-hour meeting. And my guess is you could probably knock it out in the better part of a day, I don't think you'd have a whole lot more than 8 or 9. And you basically ask them the same question. You've got a group that you represent, and I'm a former elected official, so I'm going to call it a constituent group. And then this is like the soccer coach or the whoever it might be.
Not whole,
What's that?
not whole.
Oh, you call it not whole up here?
Yeah,
Yeah, I played not whole ball.
we had a youth football
Uh-huh.
for a year or two. They may come back. So yeah, we've got a few.
And there's, the industry changes quite rapidly, but so you try to get the various stakeholders to come in and you want them to buy into what you're doing.
Absolutely.
Now, most parks do not address passive recreation. And if we did a statistically accurate survey of Georgetown residents, I would venture to say that their number one priority would be recreational outdoor swimming. That's what they tell you. Now, a spray ground is a good start, not a bad start.
As you mean?
I'm sorry?
You mean the splash pad?
You're right.
Okay,
Yeah, we
okay.
call them spray ground.
Got you, right. Just making sure I'm understanding.
Yeah, they've gotten all new kinds of names. I think we've done 75 spray grounds. Did the first one out at Winton Woods for Hamilton County. And we've done, I think about 70. 69 of them have been a good experience.
We had a swimming pool for, golly gee, how long, Dale?
Probably 45 years.
But just couldn't sustain it.
Right.
So we built Burger King on it.
Some communities this size can build a pool and they can recover all their operating expenses. And I was going to show you a picture of one we did for Plain City, which is a suburb of Columbus. Actually, it's over in the next county, so it's kind of like Batavia is to Cincinnati, we'd say. And they had a pool that we renovated in 1981, and then we did a replacement. The project we did in 1981 was about $200,000 with 50% federal matching grant. And then this one got tired, the renovation, after so many years, and they wanted to do something else. So we went through a similar process to do a study for an outdoor pool. And it turned out to be about a $2 million project, but we did a bond levy for it and it passed. And bond levies for recreation, about 70% of them pass. But you have to keep the average household real estate tax increase to $50 or less. That number may have.
But it's a good way to tell who's really serious about what they want.
Right. If $50, what do you got, 4,000 people?
Mhm.
44.
Yeah, 4,400 and something, yeah.
You divide that by 2.5, you're gonna get what? Help me here. You got probably 15.
Less than two.
What's 4,400? What's 2.5 into 4,400?
It's going to be a little bit more than 2.
So about 1,500.
1,500, right. That's 1,500 households we've got. That's what 2.5 people per household.
Yeah.
But it's amazing how consistent that statistic is as you look at cities just about anywhere. 2.3 to 2.5. It's pretty interesting. So I always guess. But anyway, you've got the number of households, and you can quickly realize if the project you're thinking can feasibly be done with a bond levy is something that people would pass. And you go through this exercise, and the need for outdoor recreational swimming may be stronger here and may not be. I don't see a whole lot of change as you go from one community to the next. What happened was you had a lot of WPA projects built in the 30s, and they did fine. But then you hit the 1980s, and these things were a lot of these pools are just tired. And people wanted to swim in an old broken down pool about as much as they wanted to eat in a dirty restaurant. I had so many people, as we were working on these projects over the years, people in Upper Sandusky don't like to swim. They don't want to swim in your pool. Wapakoneta, people in Wapakoneta don't want to swim. No, they don't want to swim in this pool. So we did about a $3 million renovation. They're running about $100,000 a year surplus. Newark, it's right next to Newark. starts with an H.
Hilliard.
Heath.
Oh, Heath.
Yeah, Heath, Ohio. We renovated their pool, put in a lazy river and a whole bunch of things like that. They're running $150,000 a year surplus in a city of about 8,000. Unbelievable. Of course, they can draw from Newark, but and I'm not here to promote the idea of a pool. They're all, I won't say difficult, but there are somewhat difficult projects to do to get off the ground. But if people want that, and you can build a groundswell, that's the idea of, your planning should be, how do we build a groundswell of consensus of what people want? I discovered there are 4 steps in the development of any capital project, whether you're building a new sidewalk, a water tower, or a courthouse. First is you identify the need, and that's normally done by professional staff and city council, village council. So you identify the need. Second, you generate a plan. And that plan can be one of these nice reports that us consultants do, or it can be on a cocktail napkin. I say that facetiously. I was giving a presentation in Kentucky League of Cities, and there must have been 100 people in this room. And I went through the 4 steps. And when I said you could do one of these fancy studies, or you can do it on a cocktail napkin, one of my protagonists was sitting in the front row. We had just done this Oldham County, which is a Louisville suburb. He said, "You mean you could have done that fancy recreation study that you did for us on a napkin?" Of course, everybody got a laugh. But the important thing is to build consensus. So you have a need, you have a plan. The third step is you build consensus. The plan, when you complete the plan says, and you ask council to approve it by way of resolution, to say at this moment of time, at this snapshot of time, this is what we want to do on this particular issue. This is the direction that we want to go. Once you can do something in the context of an agreed upon direction, it gets a lot easier to get a project done.
Sure.
I still contend getting consensus is harder than getting funding. I can tell you projects where cities, counties, whatever they are, have had the money in the bank. And we got through the plan phase and the consensus just fell apart. So a lot of times it's indoor versus outdoor. That's a no-brainer once you put a pencil to it. And yet some people can be so belligerent. We did a master plan, we did an aquatic plan for Athens, Ohio. And they had, you get a lot of, but that big university, you get some unusual people.
You.
And they had a guy that would come in and he didn't even live in the city.
Yeah.
And he
Everybody has
city
an
council.
opinion.
And he was one of these kind of nuts and berries, kind of lives off the grid and all that sort of thing. Okay, that's okay. That's his lifestyle. But he had the ear of city council. And he recommended, said we should do an indoor and an outdoor facility. Well, that just wasn't going to work. And yet it kind of destroyed the whole thing that we built. And so anyway, looking at it, so you look at the need, the plan, the consensus, and then the last step is funding and implementation. What we typically do on a park plan or park system plan is at the very end, you have an action plan. And the action plan says, these are the facilities that we need. This is the time frame that we think we can get this done. And then this is what the cost happens to be. So what I'm kind of excited about here is to put together a planning program that I think would be unique for a smaller community. That's kind of why I'm here. And so we would like to do that. And then if you look at some funding on some other things, on parks, you do have land and water conservation funds, which is a 50% matching program. I think block grants are up to about 500,000, but you got to have low to mod.
Right.
And I don't know how that works out. Can always find that out pretty quickly. So And then you went in on your Appalachia grant program.
We're working on that. We've got a planner assigned to us, but
Yeah, you working with people in Claremont County?
no, we're working with American Structure Point. We'll probably, we don't know what applications we're going to be on yet. We got to put them together and
You talked to Ken Reed down in Waverly?
that's what I was getting ready to say. I'm on that board and that's
Okay,
what
oh, you're on
Ken,
board?
that's what Ken's job is.
Right.
He's going to pair these projects. So I just talked to him day before yesterday. So
Well, yeah, that Appalachia grant program is $500 million. We kind of got in on it late. Now, I'm not sure what happened there, but it tells me we ought to hire a lobbyist or something. But that grant program, $500,000 for 36 counties in Appalachia. And I think what's going to happen is that there are 3 planners down in Claremont County. And they're going to be doing Scioto, Brown, Adams, and Claremont. I think they're going to funnel having them fill out the applications essentially.
they are working together right now. The application process is going to be different though, because they may pair somebody in Claremont County up with somebody in Lawrence County. Now, right now, just this last Friday, they came out with all the river towns that want to do anything that involves the riverfront. They're going to pair them all and call that a river project. So all the river towns, well, they might have 10 projects, but if it involves the river, part of that project's going to go into that application for the river. It's every week it changes.
Yes, you're exactly
So
right.
every 2 weeks, I'm sitting in these meetings, listening to the new changes.
Well, I'm
We're dealing with Claremont. I mean, because Brown County is dealing with Claremont, but
yeah.
we kind of got ahead of the game here, and
Well,
we-
it's very fluid, but there's a heck of a lot of money out there.
yeah,
And so, however, how it shakes out, I'm not sure. We may not be able to get anything out, any work out of it. They're talking about not even going out for proposals for engineering firms. They're just talking about now the group of 20 that they selected and assigned, just having the work go directly to them. That's one group. People down in Buckeye Hills and Marietta told me that, and then I talked to Austin Ward in Columbus, who's handling it for the state, and he said, no, we're going to have to go through procurement, which is what we're interested in. So I'm just keeping my ears to the ground to see what's going on.
yeah. Last I talked to them, the last meeting we had, which was last Friday, the state still plans on doing the procurement process so that we don't have to do that. So that right now, that's where it is. Now, next week's meeting, that could totally be different. I mean, they have to reallocate the funding that ran out, so they'll reallocate that, and that should be approved again by the end of this month. And we can start over. We're lucky. We got American Structure Point here. They've been doing a lot of work for us here the past couple of years, and that's who we got assigned as planner. And all of our projects that we have on the slate right now, they've been approved the planning process for all those projects right now.
Well, I'm happy to see that they're going through a planning exercise. So many times with these grant programs, the way they've gone for the last 40 years that I've been in it, people send in an application, and whether it was block grant, land and water, EPA, whatever it might be, you send in an application, and the engineering and the costing and all that sort of thing are at best a guess.
Yeah.
And so they get hung up. And I got some great war stories about that, but not for now.
Our goal here is, I think, all of us in this room are pretty close to being at the end of our working careers or public careers or whatever. We want to create a plan now to know that we have some impact, so that the future that comes into this room has something to work off of. We've all been guilty, and all small towns are guilty. We just decide we want to do something in the park and we try to throw it together. But if we have a plan and something to follow, or our future leaders have something to follow, that's what we want to achieve here.
Well, I think if you go through the process of involving the citizens, then council is more bought into it, because their constituents are the ones that did it, as opposed to hiring some planner like us and saying, here, used to be when you did park planning, the real issue was, where are we going to put the soccer fields?
Right.
It's where we're going to put stuff, as opposed to what do people want.
And most of the things that I think are at this park or because citizens ask for them. I know the dog park and the splash park are, I imagine the basketball court, volleyball. They're things that, people ask for over the years. So we're very into, they're using it. What do they want?
They don't have a problem telling us. They don't have a problem telling us.
No.
We are blessed with very vocal, engaged town here. So
Well,
that's a good
and
thing.
that becomes kind of planning and priorities by the squeaky wheel theory. What we try to do with this process is disseminate that so that John Q. citizen
Right.
can come to a meeting and say, we need this or we need that. It's not uncommon for somebody to come up to it, come up to this, the village administrator or the mayor and go, oh, we need to have another tennis court because my kids had to wait the other
Right.
night 10 minutes to play.
Yes.
I mean, so
Yeah.
what you try to do is bring all that stuff together, congeal it, and then have a priority action plan. It says just, and then and then the key to implementation is leadership.
Absolutely.
Who is going to carry the ball and be passionate about it? And if you've got the entire council in behind you, and the elected officials, then it becomes much more effective.
And I also think we're kind of lucky too, and I know you've already hit on that, but to address the leadership issue specifically, Art has done an incredible job with some of the Appalachian Grant things, and there's some vision already rolling towards this, which is like there's lots of work to do, but I'm just saying there's some solid people in this room to work with to get things done, to go from vision to actuality.
Yeah, I mean, the mayor and I, we're working on a lot of different economic development projects, trying to bring some businesses. There's some stuff on the hook right now, but we see this park as a center point to that. And not only when the businesses, but when those businesses come, 32 between Batavia and Brown County is booming. There's factories and stuff. And we want to draw that residential in. So this park's a key to doing all that. One of the keys.
How long does it take you to get to Williamsburg?
20 minutes, 30 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah. And then to Batavia, well, Batavia's,
35, 40
Yeah.
minutes.
and then the next town east of Williamsburg is.
East?
Mount Orr.
Yeah.
And that's just up the road from us. That's
Right.
12 miles. So.
Right. Well, so what I was going to propose would be to, now that I have a little better feel, met you and you've met me, maybe we'll come back with a little more of a presentation. I might work with Art if it's okay with you guys, and we'll put together some prices on this. And Pat Hoagland, who runs our parks group, may or may not be available. We are just totally snowed under right now, as all people in our business are. But that's not going to be forever. And but we've always enjoyed serving, cities, counties, and villages, and to some extent townships, and especially the ones around Cincinnati. They can be tough customers. But anyway, and so we would be entertained for us to come back, and we do a little more formalized presentation. We'll give you a scope for plan, fees, and then perhaps some other strategies. If you thought that you might want to get a grant application in to do a major park improvements like a pool or something like that, the land and water applications go in, I think June 1st.
No,
So
don't
you
they?
got
No, I think they go in the fall, don't they? Don't they go in like November, the land and water? I may be wrong, but I thought
Unless they changed it recently.
Okay.
They've traditionally been July 1st. And
and it's every other year, right?
to my knowledge, it was always every year,
Maybe I'm thinking of something else then.
but we can double check that. When you do these grant applications, the best way to have success is essentially to take your time and make sure you've got something that's makes sense and is doable. And we worked on the last thing that people in Columbus want to see, or at any state capital, or projects get funded, and then the residents have digging their heels, or at least a faction of them. We got a grant in Maysville to do a new library. And so the site was going to be down in the, in the basin area of the city. Then the people up on the hill raised hell about it. They went over to Frankfurt and said, don't give Maysville the grant because they're putting it in the wrong place. So they withdrew the grant. And then we came back and we picked a site up on top of the hill. And the same thing happened in reverse. So they did away with the grant. Well, about that time, Maysville was tired of dealing with us. And maybe we were tired of dealing with them. And so they went and got the thing funded in another way and put all the pieces together. Another firm did it, turned out fine. And but it was a great learning experience for me personally.
The LWCF grants, this year it's due November 15th, November 2023. And as of 2021, they started doing them every year. Up until then, it was every other year. So, because I know I always look at those. I'm big on park grants. So
We haven't done one with LWCF that I can think of within the last 3 or 4
the
years.
land and water.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, obviously November's too soon this year, but hopefully they'll do it again next year. And that might be a target point for us to, because that's a lot of money.
Well, Congress keeps funding that. When we first went into business nationally, there was 900 million that they put in the program. Reagan came along, dropped it back to 75 million. And then it's been 75 million ever since, to my knowledge, last time I checked. And then the state came along with another program, which a lot of states did. So I think the important thing is trying to find what the need is, what people's priorities are. I think once you realize what you need, trying to put together the funding package, most of the time we get it done.
Well, I think that's what we just need to figure out what people want.
Yeah.
And then, like you say, then we can look for how are we going to do it? It may not be done all in one fell swoop and, we can build on it, but first we've just got to decide and then have somebody who can help us use our land wisely instead of you throw something here and you throw something there. Well, now there's no room here. We've moved that over a little bit. We might have,
We've had
we just need
relocated-
guidance.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to talk over.
No, that's
We had
okay.
a lot of where we had to relocate things and so they make more sense.
Yeah.
And
Like Eastgate traffic.
So one last point I wanted to make that I failed to make before, and that is most of the people are going to want passive recreation. So when you look at that tract of land you've got over there, I would think passive. Because that's what people, like I said, if you do priorities, and what are the top 20 things that people want in Georgetown, their aquatics will probably be in there, and somebody would probably want to see you do an indoor recreation center, which is way off the wall.
Right.
But everything else is probably going to be passive,
What do you
including,
mean by
well,
passive?
just non-sports. Yeah,
Okay,
your dog
dog park.
park is part of that.
Okay.
Walking trails, picnic areas, family oriented things.
The things I've heard most recently besides swimming pool are, what do you call them? Disc golf?
That's one
Yeah,
I'm really
frisbee golf.
interested. The disc
I've heard
golf
that a
course.
lot.
That's a
And the other
perfect
thing
place
is
to
an
play.
amphitheater. Nowhere do we have an amphitheater in this town, and that's something I've heard a lot too.
We've done
So-
several. One was for Colerain Township outside of Cincinnati. And, you can spend a ton of money on an amphitheater or you can try to do one. And neither one of them is gonna, no matter how much you spend, it's kind of like a wedding and a funeral. No matter how much money you spend, nobody's more married, nobody's more dead.
Right.
But it's the programs that you use in the amphitheater.
Absolutely.
And if you don't have people to put on a show, But we did one at Colerain Township where we got a store-bought glue lamb beams that kind of had a little nice arch to them, and we put, that was the roof beams. And then mounted those on some brick piers and a concrete stage and all the other stuff that goes along with it. And we did that thing for a very reasonable amount of money. They did this, then did it again over in Clarksburg, West Virginia. And so I'm not sure you might have the marketplace, if you will, with the number of people that would want to do
Well,
things.
We're kind of lucky here. We have a fairly decent interest in the arts. There's a theater above your head right here that is like a cornerstone of the town. Cincinnati Shakespeare comes in and does Shakespeare.
Oh,
here. Yeah, absolutely. We have concerts on the square all the time. It might be better than you think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah, here again, you got leadership, you got somebody who's passionate about it, and those are the things you discover when you go through the process.
Right.
But that's where you want to bring a stakeholder in, or stakeholders. I don't think there's anybody more passionate than arts and performance people.
Right.
Mhm.
And sometimes they mix well, and sometimes they don't. And so you just have to be careful
Yeah, we have
and listen to them.
We have an associated, the Courthouse Square, what is it called? Courthouse Square Association? I can't remember.
Somewhere on the square, I think.
Yeah, but we have a group that is, their purpose is to get arts events going on in here. And they're really great to.
That brings me to another point. We're seeing in a lot of communities, especially in rural areas, that sort of thing, an emphasis on events.
Absolutely.
And some cities go out and hire events coordinators. Like we've got that Riverfront Park in Newport, Kentucky that we did many, many years ago, and only did the first phase. They have a festival there every weekend. If you drive through the summer, every weekend in the summer, get a fest, fish fest, Italian fest, mafia fest. I mean, it's a, but those are great. And a lot of cities are having these festivals. Well, they're the Bratwurst Festival in Bucyrus and all that sort of thing. So if this thing could get people thinking in those terms, draw the leadership into the community that says, yeah, we need to try and do this.
Absolutely. And that's one of the things we've been trying to do is more events. We have on Saturday, by the way. If you're not busy.
Beer Fest.
Kegs with a cause. We had 2,000 last year, which is pretty good for us.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I wish I could come. I've got to go to a church function Saturday afternoon.
Oh, this will be more fun.
So, absolutely. So if I told them to do a beer fest, they would probably hit my hat.
We go to 11. So come on.
Yeah, 5 to 11. But, to me, events is what makes a community. In small towns, that's what about. And all the towns around us always talk about, you guys do so much and you have such great events. It's about quality of life. It's about community. It's about bringing people together. And events are really important.
You hate to spend all your tax monies on education and then just have the graduates
Leave.
go to Columbus or Nashville.
You got that right.
That is our number one discussion. Exactly.
Is it really?
Well, it's come up a lot.
It's a problem, yeah.
Well, Ohio, we do a lot of work. I was raised in Cincinnati. My great-great-grandfather got off the boat down the foot of Stanley Avenue in Cincinnati. I was the first one to leave town. And our family was in the paving business, and Dad said he had a 10th grade education. He said, you boys are not gonna, my brother and I said, you boys are not gonna shovel blacktop the rest of your life. So that's why Bruce and I, Bruce.
Yeah.
Yeah. And my brother and I got chased up I-71, and then that became Grand Center Carroll. And then he came back to work for us when he retired. So,
But, I think that, what we all want is a good quality of living and try to improve the quality of living for those who live here. And we want to be attractive to others who are looking for someplace to live while they're going to their factories in Mount Orab and all of that, nice, quiet, historic town that has a lot of amenities that it's just a good quality of living out in the country.
I've noticed driving through Georgetown, it seems like you've got more historic buildings. Driving out here on 125, which was a labor of love, the only historic building they had was an empty dollar store. But I noticed that green building down here, half a block from this building, And there's just a lot of historic buildings. What are you gonna do with those two schools?
One of them has a contract on it right now to be sold, and the other one, that used to be I think you're probably talking about the old hotel next to the school down there, but for sale right now too. It had, for the lack of a better term, a medical facility in it, and they left.
Be a cute boutique hotel if you're
Be a
interested.
great branch at a Carroll office, actually.
That's right.
Well,
There's a chicken and the egg aspect to this here. Like, do those get developed first, or does this get developed first? And I don't think we can wait around to see. I think we just start promoting things and stuff
Yeah.
will happen. That's the goal.
Yeah, that's a word in hand. Here is the pool we did for Plain City. And Plain
Oh,
City is
okay.
about the size of your community. It's right outside of Columbus.
Mhm.
I don't know how to put it. So, the reason I bring it up is that if you have any interest in seeing it, they'll be open and operating until the August. And so, if you want, I got a couple extra.
Yeah, that's the mayor there, by the way. I don't think you met him, but
We snuck in the back door.
I see you.
A little late to get in here today.
Oh, that's
I'm
okay.
all right.
You're okay?
My son used to be the village administrator in Plain City.
Oh,
His name Nathan K. Hall.
Oh, he's not village administrator?
And then he went to Middletown. He's
Oh, he did?
assistant
Yeah,
administrator.
we're doing work for Middletown. I think somebody brought that up the other day, that Nathan was down there, and I had forgotten all about that. I talked to him on the phone probably a year or two ago to ask him how the pool was doing. And
There's no
yeah,
way.
that's.
I think he's
Yeah.
the village manager.
I think I remember this right.
Yeah. But it, actually, if you have that interest, it is worth looking at. It just shows you what you can get from a community this size, and it's totally appropriate.
Could we get?
Absolutely.
I don't mean to be rude. I figured you guys had heard enough from me.
well, it's over. Yeah, we got another meeting starting here in a minute anyway, but.
Okay, right here. Appreciate it.
How do you usually meet a same contact with him?
Yeah, I am. How you feel, Jeremy?
In terms of what?
Well, are we interested in maybe seeing
Oh,
what they can offer and what they would charge us to advise us?
Absolutely. Yeah. This is,
Yeah.
this is the kind of,
It's the kind of thing we need.
yeah, and
We-
this is the
we
entry
don't know
level of this
anything.
discussion, and that's why, because we're
Yeah.
not so sure it'd be great.
Jeremy and I know what's fun. We just don't know how to organize it.
Oh, you're doing a good job with cakes. I'm not gonna lie, I'm excited for disc golf course, but that's just me.
I will.
I've heard that a lot.
Oh, it's so much fun.
And it's not expensive.
12,000 max.
Yeah.
Really nice course, and the land is perfect for it. I could go on. I'll
And
just.
we can do things, yeah,
See,
it's
when
not something I would
when you
probably
do-
use, but I don't have a dog or get in a splash pad either. It's never
Right,
been about me.
exactly, and then you can like take that and break that.
Absolutely.
Right. That's,
We're on the same page.
oh, yeah. Oh, two of our items. We're still like on the air. And we're still having a meeting. Thank you, Brian.
Like I say, I did an agenda and then I just threw it away because I thought he's coming. I'm
Yeah.
trying to think, unless,
He's been talking about.
Art, anything you want to add, Art?
I went somewhere. Probably
I had to
get
make the
this.
motion either.
No, I know. So,
The only thing I know is if he has, I know he hasn't ordered the secondary signs to come in yet. And I know he hasn't gotten us a quote on the historic signs. He's gonna try to get on that. And unless he's got a, update on the Appalachian grants,
I'll let you know that I spoke to him. Please do.
that's kind of
he's
what,
been pretty busy with the,
well, I know, that's why I didn't
Yep.
push him on anything.
absolutely, yep.
Okay, well, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Oh, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Opposed? All righty.
We're still
This
on.
meeting is,
Yep, yep. We're
Adjourn.
still on. Let me go.
Hey, Brian, before you leave tonight, we got some replats to sign in there.
Okay.
We got time.
All righty.
If not, they'll still be there tomorrow.
All right. I'll try and get them done tonight.
If Nancy and Jeremy would have quit talking, I'd have done it.
oh, well,